Welcome, peace and blessings. You're tuned in to the Sajdah Saturday Morning Coffee Talks, where we talk about life, love, and business.
O Allah, guide me among those whom Thou hast guided aright, and preserve me among those whom Thou hast preserved, and befriend me among those whom Thou hast befriended. Bless me in whatsoever Thou dost grant me, and deliver me from the evil of what Thou hast judged. Surely Thou judgest, and none can judge against Thee, and he whom Thou befriendest is not disgraced. Blessed art Thou, O Lord, and exalted be Thee above what they set up besides Thee. I bear witness, nothing deserves to be served besides Thee, and I bear witness that Muhammad is Thy servant and apostle. Amen.
The Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us that history develops the springs and motives of human action, which display themselves most powerfully in the destiny of man. History actually motivates and stimulates human action. Sometimes you may not know what to expect from yourself. But if you only could read the autobiography of someone from among your people who has achieved, then that tells you what is possible to do. Black people in America have labored without understanding the realm of possibility for black people. And because we don't know what is possible for us as a people to achieve, we labor under the misconception that the accomplishments of Caucasian people should be our guide. And as a result, we keep on trying to be like them rather than trying to be ourselves. This is a result of being robbed of history.
You belong to yourself. You're an independent people, created from the nation of free people. Yes, sir. You don't need to go nowhere but to yourself. Yes, sir. There will be a great separation. Yes, sir. So I said, it is on now.
The college is meant to prepare you for your future. That the time dictates that if we don't do something for ourselves as a people, we will be destroyed. And the aim of the enemy right now is to take us out.
We have God with us. We have Him as our guide. Yes, sir. We don't have to stand around here and ask the question, what must be done? Yes, sir. And let's go and do something. Yes, sir. We cannot sit down. We cannot lay down. Yes, sir. We must get up. Yes, sir. And go to work.
Do you know what real joy is in life? Visioning something and bringing it into reality. That's real joy. Do you know what the next step in joy is? Behold how good and how pleasant it is for brethren to dwell in unity.
Tonight, you need to fasten your seatbelts. We're going to hear from some of the greatest minds in the world. I don't know about you, but I'm tired of trusting our future and the future of our children into the hands of those who don't love us. I believe we need to revitalize black leadership.
I love this stuff. Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. Peace be unto you all. Wa alaikum salam to those of you in the chat. Good morning to everyone. Welcome. Man, happy Saturday. Did y'all see our Sajdah House sponsorship video that I showed? Wa alaikum salam, Brother Stanley. So I wanted you all to see this, but these are the Mary Magdalene statues that were commissioned for us to give away with our sponsors, to the sponsors, to those who sponsor or become a sponsor for Sajdah House. So if you want a sponsorship package, you just have to go to sajdahhouse@gmail.com, send an email, just say, I want to be a sponsor. You can say, I want to buy a coin, whatever it is you want to do, and we'll make sure we get that done for you. But this statue, it's an interesting story behind it. It was commissioned for me by, or suggested for me by someone, actually a priest, who saw what we were doing for Sajdah House, and he loved it so much that he facilitated having this commissioned. And this is created by Timothy Schmalls. So this is his original one. You could see it. Mary has her oil that's in her hands a little clearer. In ours, the oil pieces, this thing is heavy. The oil pieces back here, and you see her hand, and this is Jesus's foot. And then of course, this is her hair, symbolic of the Bible that describes, and this is the back of it. So it's very detailed, very heavy. And I promised him that I wouldn't sell them because they didn't want them to be sold. But I said, well, what we'll do is each of our sponsors, we'll make sure that we give them one. So if you become a sponsor for Sajdah House, you get one of these commissioned Mary Magdalene, very heavy little sculptures by Timothy Schmalls. Okay. So peace and blessings. I see y'all in the chat. Let's see who we got here. We got the great Sister Betty here. Welcome, Sister Betty. Good morning. I see Brother Lamont. Good morning. Assalamu alaikum, he says. And good morning. Wa alaikum salam, we say in return. We got Brother Stanley Ferguson says, Assalamu alaikum. We say wa alaikum salam in return. Sister Felicia Horn is here. Assalamu alaikum, Sister Sajdah Muhammad and family. Happy Savior's Day. Wa alaikum salam, Sister Felicia, and to your family, and happy Savior's Day to you all as well. Sister Aletha says, Assalamu alaikum, morning blessings. And we say wa alaikum salam, morning blessings to you also, sister. And Sandra D says, Assalamu alaikum, Sister Sajdah and family. Saturday blessings, happy Savior's Day. And Sister Sandra, to you, we say wa alaikum salam to you and your family. Saturday blessings and happy Savior's Day. I hope y'all had a good week. Let me know in the chat how your week went. Sometimes you don't have a lot to do, but you may have an emotional week. You may have a lot of things that just kind of crop up and prop up and go down. I was almost trying to get a cold this week, so I had to make sure that I fasted because just to start, and it's starting to clear up already. So I'm just working with my coffee this morning. Make sure that No cold. I ain't got time for no cold. um, anyway, man, so many interesting things was happening this week in the news. One of the things I thought that was really interesting was the brain chip that they made a big deal out of, that Elon Musk successfully implanted into a human. And it's a chip that is, he didn't invent it. It's already, it already exists. But it's interesting because, let me say, how do I say this? I just say it. Anything that mimics the attributes of Allah and the attributes that we are taught that we will acquire when we follow the laws of civilization as given to us by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, is what they're looking to create technology to mimic. So they want to fast track, right? So instead of taking time to fast and pray and feed on the word and align your mind and all of that, they're like, look, we just put a chip in your head and you'll be tuning in to each other. You'll be communicating without words. You'll be moving things without touching them. So I found that to be quite interesting, how they're just trying to advance themselves in society, if you will, without doing the work. Almost like, let me trump the God that's on the scene and let me show y'all how we can do it. So I thought that was something that was quite interesting. Allah always uses technology. Remember, I see some of y'all coming in. Brother Ronald, welcome. Walaikum salam, sir. Greetings and peace in paradise. Brother Victor, walaikum salam, sir. Brother Jonathan, good morning. And assalamu alaikum, peace be unto you as well. Allah always uses technology. I say this because oftentimes we're so afraid of technology. They scare us with AI but our lessons teach us to be right and exact, right down to the modern times. So if you're taught to be right and exact, she said, Sister Felicia said, I'm ditching and daring the spirit killers. That was my week. That's what my week was about. Oh yeah. Yeah. That's exactly right. You gotta get around them. But if he tells us to be right and exact, right down to the modern times, then the modern times is more than likely going to include technology. And that lesson has been around since the 30s. And, we've had this conversation. We had it on Thursday. We talked about it, where there was a time when there was no television. And then television came around and it was black and white. And people only had black and white television. That was technologically savvy. And there were people who were afraid of the television, afraid of the technology. Then we got colored television. And people were really afraid of that. Then there were people there was a time when there was no telephones. And telephones came about and people were afraid of the telephone. Then we got cell phones. People were afraid of cell phones. There was a time when there was no cars and the cars came out and people were afraid of the cars. So don't be afraid. The God puts it right in our lessons. And for those of us who are not in the Nation of Islam, it's just real simple. These are lessons that we receive as registered Muslims that we're to study and memorize and to use as guidance for our lives. Among other things. And there's something in there that talks about being right and exact right down to the modern times. And so I say to us, don't be afraid. At one time, in the Bible, when they was talking about Ezekiel's will, that was technology. So remember, God always uses technology to push society forward. Everything new is oftentimes considered technology. People used to be afraid to buy items online. Now, most of us don't even buy things in the store. We only shop online. Um, People used to be afraid of doing so many things that they now do that are regular. So, trust me, if it's been invented or being inspired and invented by man and it's never been seen before, there's some divine intervention there. And there's a God somewhere that's real clear, okay, on what's going on. We can't even possibly touch the infinite wisdom of Almighty God Allah. We have no idea what kind of technology he has access to and what he's doing with technology. We have no idea. I mean, they're just and a beautiful thing. Let me say this: so much of what is great, most of what is great about America was invented by Black people like us, right? Because when you're working and you're the workers and an economy is being built on your back, you're always more than likely going to be the one who's going to find a better way to improve upon something, how to do something better. If you're working in the fields, you're like, man, how can we do this more efficiently, more effectively? How can we pick more cotton in a shorter period of time? So then you had Eli Whitney with the cotton gin, and how do we do things differently? The first automated vehicle invented by a Black man. Ford actually mass produced it, but he was the first one to invent it. So don't be afraid of that. We usually are the ones that are part of technology. If you think about some of the most cutting edge movies, like The Matrix, it was the sister who wrote that. So let's get over our fear of technology. They tell us we got to go to school and major in IT, and you got to take some computer classes, and it becomes so, so woo, so scary to us. But, people now are afraid of self-driving cars. I think probably in the future, that's going to be very, very, very common. The infrastructure is being worked on, as we speak. People were afraid of electric cars. And now, you have the majority of the major car manufacturers now, in addition to Tesla, coming out with electric vehicles. And there's a push to go to all electric vehicles and reduce our dependence on petroleum or the petrodollars. So that infrastructure is being worked on, trust me. A lot of us are like, man, we're afraid of being tracked. We've been being tracked, and folks know everything about us now for decades. So just don't be afraid of it. Brother Lamont said they stole blockbuster movies from that sister. Yeah, that's exactly right. So I just don't want us to. I want us to get out of that where we're not tech savvy. We're afraid. We're scared of the internet and all of this stuff. They can't do anything that Allah does not allow them to do. He is the author of life and death. And if it's interesting, because if you know how that scripture in the Bible says, if you have faith the size of a mustard seed, and you know how tiny that little mustard seed is, think about that. If you can move mountains with that little mustard seed, you don't have to worry about technology or anything that's going to come out being harmful to you. In a lot of cases, technology is better and it makes our lives better, like in medicine. I believe they've had the cure for diabetes. They know how to stop high blood pressure, all of that. It's just that it's mainly poor people or Black people who are plagued by these diseases. But once it started becoming widespread and then you start seeing them wanting to release certain drugs to the public that only elite people used to get. I wonder, for a long time when I was in healthcare, I used to always say, why is it when Black people get diabetes, we see them like years later and they got gangrene and they're swollen and they're going blind and all of this stuff. And certain white people, wasn't all white people, but certain white people or certain people in certain socioeconomic classes would get diabetes, and we'd see them not even years later, but like a month or so later, and they'd be thinner, they look healthier, they look better. And I was like, what is going on? And I remember having this conversation, but everybody's just looking at me like saying, well, it's just simple. It's just diet and exercise. I said, them people ain't that disciplined. You're not going to tell me that they that disciplined. I said, they got access to something. And then now with just the onset of obesity and all of that, and because they know they can make money off of it, they're releasing drugs to help cure and reduce the impact of diabetes, and aid with weight loss. It just is interesting to me. But there's a lot of technology that works well, even in medicine. Whenever you have blockages in your arteries, whether it was in your heart or maybe in your limbs or anywhere else, you had to get cut open. You had to get open heart surgery, and they literally had to go in, open you up, crack your chest, get to the artery, cut it, take the plaque out, maybe patch it or something like that. But literally it was this very tedious surgery. Same thing if you have blockages in your arteries in your legs. They had to literally fillet you open, get to the artery, fix it, and close you back up and bypass it or something. But now there's technology, there's lasers, there's catheterization that can be done, atherectomies, all kind of stuff that are done, and it's an outpatient procedure, and you go home the same day. So, you want to embrace technology. All right. Yeah, sickness is a big business. It's really sad, Brother Lamont. I didn't realize for myself all those years of working in healthcare development, how it had impacted me, because I'm an empath, and my intention was to go into it as a developer and get in and get out. And then I got vested, started to have some partnership percentages, and I was still developing, but I was more, involved in some of the operations. And it became painful. Just the whole predatory nature of the healthcare business. It was really sad, especially when you started to see the disparity, right? So like I told you, I'd see some people at a certain socioeconomic background, when they would get diagnosed with something, you could see them a couple months later and they look like they never had it. They look amazing. And then you see mostly our people, Black and Hispanic, come in and it's just a downhill. They just start circling the drain. And I just always said, we need to, I don't know what you call it, maybe democratize medicine. We got to take back ownership of our health. But even more so, we could take back ownership of our health. Obviously, there's How to Eat to Live, where we can reverse a lot of these things. But then we also need access to this technology. It needs to be made affordable to us. The research is being done with our tax dollars. So make it affordable. We have a lot of obese people in our community, and they got all these, they call them weight loss shots now, but they're really, diabetic medication to help with the processing, to help your pancreas and things like that process and level out your blood sugar levels. But these people that are, in the hood, don't have the means, they can't afford it. So there needs to be some kind of leveling of that. I think that's where money needs to be spent. They so busy sending out money to go defend people overseas or fight people overseas. We'll fund some of this research so some of this technology and some of this stuff can come down to the people who actually need it. Because unfortunately, a lot of us are not disciplined enough. We know that the dietary program given to us by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad works. We know that. We have evidence of that. There's many of us that are living it, and we are walking examples that it works. You look at us, we're in our 40s and 50s, and we look like we're in our 30s. This is from this dietary program and feeding on this wisdom and knowledge. But a lot of our people can read the book till they're blue in the face. Some people, Muslims, and they don't have the discipline to do it. They just can't do it mentally. Or they have some other underlying disease that even when they do it, it impacts them differently, or it's more of a slow process. So some of this technology, if they could get some assistance with some of this technology that's out here, and then still doing How to Eat to Live dietary program, they would be in a good space. But I just think it's wrong that certain people don't have access to things. You guys have heard me tell the story about, we went to a fact-finding healthcare mission in Asia. And we went to Beijing and Seoul. Is that it? I think it might be one more place. And when we were in China, in Beijing, the amount of technology, and I'm not a big fan of China. Like some people say, I love going to China. I don't really care for China because I'm a little more sensual and spiritual, and I like places like that. I did enjoy Korea because I love the Koreans. They're very ceremonial, and everything felt very soul-filled. But China felt very systemic and very structured, very manufacturing oriented. I didn't feel the art of creativity from China. So the healthcare system was interesting. We went to the hospital, one of the largest hospitals in Beijing, and they use stem cells like everyday medicine. Now, I don't know where they're getting the stem cells from. I can't say that, but that's what they use. And they made a comment. They said, well, the U.S. will never catch up in this research because I think President Bush banned it, and then President Obama tried to start it back, but they are so far ahead in the research. And I was sitting there during their presentation, and when I tell you, it literally looked like they was growing back limbs. You have people with wounds that wouldn't heal, like diabetic wounds that traditionally here in the state, people have to go to wound care and get the wound packed and all of that. They was closing them up, growing back the skin on it with the stem cells. I mean, it was fascinating. And I asked a question, and I said, what about diabetes and kidney dialysis or kidney failure? What do you guys do for that? Do you use insulin? Do you put them on dialysis? And they started laughing, and we had an interpreter. So I thought maybe I said something wrong, or maybe the interpreter added something, because I couldn't understand why they were laughing at me. And they was pointing like, old school, old school. And what they were saying was, that's old school. Insulin, dialysis, they're using stem cells. So it's just this kind of technology. And if you have money, of course, you can fly to Thailand and go to Bumrungrad Hospital and get some of these treatments for pennies on the dollars. But you have to have money, and your healthcare treatment cannot be dictated by whatever the insurance will pay for. And that's what happens to us. It's like the circumference of our knowledge is based on whatever they tell us is okay to do. But these people in other countries, they're restoring limbs in terms of dealing with spinal injuries using stem cells. People who are in comas getting stem cell treatment, and they start to see brain activity coming back and start to, sit up and move around. So there's there's a lot of technology out here that is good. Let me see what y'all talking about. Brother Ronald got a stethoscope there and some coffee. All right, how to eat to live, I think. Felicia Horn said Harriet leak cells are still being used in technology medicine world. They've been found cures for a lot of disease, but use it against the poor and Black people. Henrietta Lacks, I think that's her name. Yes, you're correct, sis. Miss Phoenix 91, Walaikum Salam from Toledo. Happy Savior's Day. Yeah, so I don't know. I didn't have a plan today on what I was going to talk to you guys about. I was going to talk to y'all about making sure you become a sponsor for the Honorable Elijah Muhammad House, and you get one of these beautiful commissioned Mary Magdalene sculptures. That's what I was planning on talking about, but we got off into healthcare and technology, and that's okay too. It's nice and heavy. But yeah, so it's just the use of technology is weaponized, I would say. It's definitely weaponized, where people at not only just certain socioeconomic levels, but people who are at certain knowledge levels with access know this kind of thing. I know it is beautiful, isn't it, Sister Felicia? So it's Mary Magdalene. She's got her oil right here. This is Jesus's foot. This is her hair going around here. You can go turn to the back. You can see her hair. But these were commissioned for us, for Sajdah House, to give away to our sponsors, for those of you who become sponsors. So that's a nice little incentive that you get. They asked us not to sell them, so we won't be selling them, but we will give them to sponsors. And you can get a sponsorship package. Just send an email to, put it in the chat, sajdahhouse@gmail.com. Put in the subject, I want to become a sponsor, and ask for a sponsorship package, and we'll send you back a sponsorship package. You can also send an email to that email address and say, I want to buy a coin, and we'll get them out to you today. We're blessed in Chicago to have 24-hour post office. So if you order today, we can get it right out to you. And if you forget all of that, just go to supportsajdahhouse.com. If you just want to donate, you can go to Cash App, $Sajdah Enterprises. But we got to start financing this stuff. I can't wait for the time where we Sister Letha says she absolutely loves it. Beautiful. I can't wait for the time where we as Black people are leaders in the technology space, and we can assist with making some of this technology accessible to our people. It's people out here dying from cancer and paralyzed and in comas, and they don't have to be. They just don't, they just don't have to be. Of course, we have to fix our family structure, right? Because when people go down like that and they need some help, there has to be a strong family that supports that person, that's willing to fly to Thailand with you and willing to go to China or Korea with you. So anyway, back to the Asia trip. So in Beijing, when you walked into the hospital, the main floor looked like a train station, and there were all these kiosks. And you literally could go up to the kiosk and check in and register to the hospital. You also could go to the kiosk and get your test results. And I was like, man, Americans, we too spoiled. We'll never go for that. But yeah, you can literally go up there, you put your card in or whatever code, and you can get your test results at these kiosks. When you got inside of the hospital, they had, I think it was 6 surgical floors. I'm talking about 6 floors of nothing but operating rooms and treatment rooms. They don't mess around a lot with medicine like that per se. It's like, when you come here, we're going to do something about it. You either going to get a treatment or a surgery, and then you're going to come back and, we'll see what happens. So you either would go to the treatment room, you might get stem cells, you might get these growth hormones. They had people in the ICU that they were given like these cocktails of like vitamins and growth hormones through their IVs. And, that it was very cutting edge like that. And then when we got to go into the OR, and in the locker room, the doctors, they got huge locker rooms for the doctors. And literally, you see them in there washing their clothes, washing out their underwear, because they're not literally, some of them don't even go home like for a whole week. So that's the thing that I'm not really feeling China about. I don't, even in some of the factories we went to, just going there and you see just rows and rows of these machines, and people are looking like they can't get up and go nowhere. Everybody looking the same and dressing the same. I didn't care for that. But when we went to Korea in Seoul and went to the hospital there, and then also to a number of different manufacturing plants. But in Seoul, the hospitals were a little bit different because they also included like rehabilitation that was like outside. So it's like the hospitals look like little mini resorts. I was like, okay, I'm feeling this. So your recovery time, or during the day while you're in the hospital, you don't just sit up in the bed. You can go out, out your little patio door in your room and go out there and bathe in the sun. Remember, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us that we should bathe in the sun at least once a year. Well, they were doing it as part of their healing. So you go in, you're getting your treatments. They're just as technologically advanced, and their hospitals look like amazing. They look like 5-star hotels. Like, imagine going to, it's like this in Thailand too. Imagine going to Vegas and the Aria Hotel with all those chandeliers and stuff is actually a hospital. That's how it is. But then you could just walk right out and get your sun. You could get you some fresh juices. And so I was feeling that. Even in the factories in Seoul, it just felt a little more creative. It didn't feel like China. Like, we went to a clothing manufacturer and there were just these rows and rows and rows of sewing machines with people just sewing, and they wouldn't even look up at you when we were walking down the aisle. They wouldn't even acknowledge you. But Korea is different. Their hospitals are run very kind of military structures. So my business partner, since he's a surgeon, when he would walk past, they would stand at attention, like he was a general. If he walked up to the front desk, they would come to attention. And I thought that was interesting. But the hospital, they just look better. They got the coffee shops on like each floor where the family can go and have food and eat and all of that stuff. And I thought that was really, really super cool. And then we went to like the Samsung plant and saw the solar operated mopeds and motorcycles and just some really cool things, and the battery plants. And let me tell you something, them Koreans are rich. Listen to me, they are rich. They got money over there. You didn't see that so much in Beijing. It kind of, I tell you what it reminded me of. You know how in Chicago, when they used to have all the projects downtown, those big high-rise projects, and they have those at certain places in Beijing, and the high rises is where a lot of the people who work in the factories live, and it look hood. Just like it's like the same mentality developing from just that, that life. Um, so yeah, so that's how that was. But just seeing all the technology was really, really powerful. The different things that they were doing with computer chips and stuff like that was really cool. So I'm just saying that to us is don't be afraid of technology. Sometimes disease processes advance so fast that it's a challenge to address them naturally. I'll say it that way. Or sometimes you can have a disease and it has caused so much damage, some kind of breakdown in a system or organ, some kind of blockage, some type of something that's happening that has caused the damage, and it's so damaged that you're going to need technology or maybe even medicine to improve. So that's why when you're feeling good, don't take it for granted. Get on your how to eat to live now. Do your fast, eat your 1 meal a day, get off the pork, stop smoking, stop eating processed foods. When we first came in the nation, we got a list of foods that we should eat, we shouldn't eat, with a list of ingredients. So you see me in the store, if it's a brand I don't know, I'm reading the ingredients. And if it got 4 or 5 ingredients that I can't pronounce, I'm not eating it. I don't put it in my body. So you want to make sure you're doing all of that up front ahead of time. And then if you do get sick, don't be afraid if you do need some type of treatment from a medical professional. You just need to make sure, and this is a business that I thought about, you just need to make sure that you have an advocate, somebody to help you navigate the system so that you don't become a statistic. That's where it becomes a problem. There are surgeries that can be done that can save your life. There's medicine out there that can save your life, that can help you, especially if you got a disease process that is moving rapidly. When you start going natural and taking your herbs and stuff, it does work, but it takes more time. And you may not be able to outpace that disease process. But what you need when you do go to the hospital is somebody to be an advocate for you. A lot of times family members might be too emotional, or, or maybe you don't have any family members to assist you. So one of the things I've been toying around with is creating this type of advocacy business, because I know it from the other side. And I know how certain insurances will say, let me put it this way. Certain insurances will really dictate how treatment is administered, which is not going to help you outpace that disease process. So being able to understand that, and oftentimes, and this is no slight against anyone, oftentimes, unless a doctor is very conscious, I don't know why I'm talking about this today, but oftentimes if a doctor is not very conscious, they may not be the advocate that you're looking for or that you need. So sometimes we think, well, I see a Black doctor and I go, oh, okay, I'm happy. But you need a conscious Black doctor and somebody who's not afraid to think outside the box, because there's a system that is set up. There's a system in the hospital. There's a system with the insurance company, and there's boxes that they have to check. And oftentimes, that doctor, while he or she may be Black and may make you feel a little bit more comfortable, and they may use better language, and they may actually touch you, and examine you, they may not be able to deviate from the systemic approach to treating your disease if needed. I'll say it that way. So that's just something to keep in mind. And there's so many predators in and around healthcare. There are patients who are predators. I mean, I've seen patients come in and they know they dead wrong. They come in and they've been sick for years. And then they'll lie and say, well, the doctor made them sick. They'll come in knowing that they needed a surgery and they'll lie and say, well, they did this surgery and I didn't really need it. It's just, then there's the other side of it where there's doctors who are predators. So it's just a predatory environment and everybody's trying to protect themselves. And so sometimes to cut through that, you may need some help. And so an advocate is oftentimes good, and making sure you get a second and third opinion whenever something is wrong. And if you have the means, seek out alternative ways to treat a particular disease. If you know that there's a treatment center in Texas for something that's ailing you, fly down there and get an evaluation. They may have access to research and technology that can help you. Because what you want to do is you want to outpace the disease process, and then you want to outpace it, and then you want to stop it and turn it around. And oftentimes what happens with medicine is the disease process is going at one pace, and all they're doing is giving you medicine to help you cope with the disease process. Y'all get that? As opposed to saying, let's figure out how we can turn this around. And most of the time, depending on how advanced that disease process is, you're going to need a combination of natural methods that include behavioral changes, like how to eat to live. But you may also need some technology, and you may also need some kind of intervention. Let me say it that way. And I'll lump all of that in intervention. So you're going to have your lifestyle changes that you're going to have to do, but you're going to need a lot of times some type of intervention, somebody who's going to do something about it and not just prescribe you a medicine to help you cope with the disease process. I hope that makes sense. So just something to help you think about. And here's an example. Let me make it, since I'm on this topic and Allah gave me this topic to talk about today. Let's say you are suffering from high blood pressure and diabetes. Okay, I'm not a medical doctor. I'm speaking to you from my years of experience in the field. And I study quite a bit because I was always wanting to make sure that I advise people properly when they would come in to our office and we were their second, third, and fourth opinion. But let's say you suffer from high blood pressure and diabetes. You need behavioral lifestyle changes, okay? That's going to help you lose weight, get active, get that heart pumping and that blood flowing. All right, so you're going to need that, but then you're also going to need something to help protect you against the advanced stages of the disease, if that's where you are. And then you need something that's going to help you turn it around. So, but what happens is we go in, we got high blood pressure, diabetes. They go, okay, let me give you this pill and this shot to just help you cope with it. They've gotten better with diabetes, where now they'll say, well, you need to go on this diet or that diet. It's almost impossible a lot of times for people, unless they're in those early stages that they sometimes will call pre-diabetic, which then they use that language and that makes people not take it very seriously. So, don't be afraid to try some of the, technology that's out there if needed. All right, so let's see. What are you guys saying in the chat? Brother Lamont said an advocate is a good idea. Brother Victor said the education and systems of this world limits our ability to think forward into something new. Mother Tanetta Muhammad, yeah, that's exactly right. Brother Stanley says advocacy would be perfect to help people find unknown treatment options. That's exactly right. For example, I saw a white man get offered a $30,000 pill for his advanced cancer. It worked. He's still alive. Grant funded. Yeah, that's exactly right. An advocate that can help you access alternative treatment routes, because what's going to happen is they're going to look at your insurance and they're going to say, okay, based on your insurance, this is what we're going to prescribe to you. But there might be something like a $30,000 pill, and maybe you go take one or two of them, and next thing you know, it turns that disease process around. Now all you got to do is keep up with your lifestyle changes. So, that's the kind of advocacy we needed. And I'm thinking that it probably needs to be a 501c3 so that we can help people who can't afford those alternative forms of assistance or surgeries that maybe their insurance isn't going to pay for. Because even if we give everybody health insurance, as President Obama attempted to do, it's still limited, right? And a lot of these insurance companies, they like to spend most of their money up front with gift cards and grocery cards and all this stuff. And when a person goes in the hospital and we call and say, hey, we got this person in the hospital, this is what we want to do, they say, oh no, we ain't paying for all that. And as a matter of fact, you only get 2 days in the hospital, so we don't care how sick they are. We want them up out of here after a while. So that thing happens all the time. And a lot of people don't have a place to go home to rehab to. And a lot of people aren't really ready sometimes to go home. But the hospital's like, no, this is what you came here for. This comes with a 2-day stay. And you got to stay. You got to really have a case manager and somebody to fight for you. So what we would do a lot of times at our facility is that we would just kind of assign people to be advocates for our patients. So we only did it for our patients. So if our patient came in, and for a lot of us as Black people, I tell you another thing that plagues us is that at young ages, we have such bad and poor lifestyle choices. So a lot of us are doing drugs. A lot of us are smoking like crazy. And these disease processes now are becoming more rampant at younger ages. But for many people, by the time they're in their 50s and 60s, they've blown their immune system out. They got all these different autoimmune disorders. They have uncontrolled diabetes or high blood pressure. Maybe their arteries. You hear the statement, I think it was Cat Williams talking about people smoking their kneecaps off. They're so advanced because of their lifestyle choices when they were young. And that's another thing that we don't consider. And they come in and now they've kind of got their life together and they're ready to move on with their life, but they got all these health issues brewing underneath because of their lifestyle choices in their 20s and 30s. So it's just something to think about. And we have to make sure that we teach our children that we can't live. We gotta stop living like that. Some of us, in our 20s and 30s, we just feel like, I can eat whatever I want. We become sugar junkies and, all of these other kinds of things that we shouldn't be eating. And then we try to get it together when we're in our 50s and 60s. And we would have people that would come in and say, well, I used to smoke. So, well, how long did you smoke? I smoked from the age of 14 to, let's say, 30. They'll say something like that. But I'm 65 and I ain't smoked in 35 years. Yeah, but for those 20 years that you smoked when you was young, you done messed your arteries up. It just has taken a while for the disease process to kick in. We have people that will come in and say, I was on crack from the age 21 to 30, but I ain't did no crack in 35 years. And you see them and they looking normal. They working for the government, and you wouldn't think it, but underneath they've blown out their immune system, or they got so many problems now because of those lifestyle choices at a very young age. So these are just things that we have to be conscious of, in general, not just as a people, but in general. I think people in general. And so if you're blessed, like I was in my early 20s, to become a member of the Nation of Islam, and spent those early 20s not drinking and smoking, but really on a strict diet and in a certain environment, it pays off later. And you can't see it oftentimes when you're in your 20s, but it pays off when you get older. So it's just something to think about. And it's never too late. It's never too late to make the necessary lifestyle changes. Pick up the book, How to Eat to Live. Start what they call now intermittent fasting, eating one meal a day. Start doing your fast once a month. Be mindful of those processed foods. And, those processed foods are so bad. They cause all kind of arthritic issues. They put all those chemicals in your blood system. We used to have patients who smoke. And I had a gentleman say to me that he had smoked and did crack. And he said it was easier for him to kick the crack than it was smoking. It's just highly addictive behaviors that we just have to stop. Right now, people are popping pills and smoking marijuana like crazy, and they think it's real marijuana, but it ain't. It's this synthetic stuff that's going to have the same impact, probably, or worse, as crack did on our generation. So it's just something to think about. So, all right, family. I told y'all I came today. I didn't know what I was going to talk about. I ended up talking about healthcare. Maybe there's somebody that's listening that needed to hear this, needed some encouragement. I pray that it touches you and that you are blessed with healing. We should all be on our healing journeys. You can't live in America, and you damn sure can't be Black in America without having some post-traumatic stress disorder going on in your life. So you got to be on your healing journey. I mean, a lot of us had things that happened to us in our childhood. And even if you feel like you had a beautiful and perfect childhood, there are certain behaviors that were passed down through slavery that you got to start unraveling, and that are likely holding you back. So we should all be on a healing journey. I would suggest to any of us, don't even be in a relationship with nobody that's not on a healing journey. If they're not putting in the work, playing full out on a healing process, trying to become better, trying to be better as a man, better as a woman, better as a parent, a sibling, a child, whatever, then you don't even need to be engaging with them unless they can pick up that healing bug. I mean, we should be going through, I'm always telling you guys about the healing exercises that I take myself through, from forgiveness to returning to my authentic self, going through my study guides, just digging through and just constantly healing, constantly working on a healing process, constantly working on how we treat other people. And that healing process is also a physical healing process. So you can't be up here talking about Jesus, and Muhammad, but you ain't treating yourself right physically. You want to be around to preach the gospel, to see the gospel, or to just have a better life. It's just about being healthy. And a lot of us need to get our butts in some counseling or go talk to somebody. A lot of us are sitting up here dealing with stuff that is impacting our ability to be a better person. Listen, sit down. Sorry, that's my note telling me time to be quiet, but sit down and talk to somebody. Go to a group, have a friend, go to a professional counselor, study, read, work on that stuff. Some of us have things that we've done that we feel guilty about, that we carry with us, that we continue to use to define who we are. And that limited definition of us prevents us from stepping into our godhood. Some of us are carrying heavy burdens, and we need to go talk to somebody so we can release that burden. Some of us were abused. Some of us watched mental abuse, parental abuse, elder abuse. Some of us were abused ourselves. So many women have been, and men have been sexually assaulted. And the thing about it with brothers is that if you ask just about any Black man, when was the first time you had sex? They probably gonna say 11, 12 years old. Who'd you have sex with? Oh, the lady down the street who was 18. My mama friend who was 24. Rarely is it somebody they age. That you're being abused. And if that was a woman, we would say, okay, she needs to get some counseling. She's been sexually abused. But brothers walk around carrying this stuff. So it's just time to heal. It's time to shed all of this stuff, to release, because you can't bring your authentic self to any relationship, to anything, unless you heal. You can't bring your authentic self to your business unless you begin the healing process. Because what's going to happen? Those abusive behaviors that exist in your personal life are going to spread over into your business life. And you're going to have a difficulty manifesting in a conscious and righteous manner. So you're going to be stuck having to do something illegal or something wrong or something shady in order to make it. So let's increase our power. Let's heal. So, okay. Thank you all. Brother Lamont said people thrive off of negativity and pain. Yeah. Sister Felicia says she needed to hear this. Thank you, sis. I'm glad. Brother Lamont said another great show. Thank you. Sister Sandra reminding everybody heal, healthy. That's right. Y'all know my goal is to help everybody become happier, healthier, wealthier, and to experience more love. So support the show. Make sure you like and subscribe. Go to Cash App, Sajdah Enterprises. If this helped you in any way, it's a cheap price to have to pay for an advocate. You get free information on the Sajdah Wendy Muhammad YouTube channel. So I'm not charging. So charge yourself and go out there and pay, whether you can pay $1 or $10 or $50, $100, $1,000, but get yourself in the habit of paying and creating that flow of energy when you receive something good. So, all right, peace and blessings, family. We will see you all this coming Thursday. Have a wonderful, wonderful Saturday. Have good conversations with yourself. If you feel yourself having anxiety, tell yourself that you're safe. Tell yourself that the God within is connected to that greater God outside of yourself. Have that conversation with yourself and have faith. It's one thing to have faith in all these people outside of yourself, but how much faith do you have in yourself? How much faith do you have in the God within? All right, peace and blessings, family. Love you all, and we will see you, inshallah, on Thursday. I'll try to do a couple of lives this week. I'm gonna work on scheduling that in and doing better with that. And because I got some great shows coming up that are going to start, inshallah, shortly after Savior's Day. All right. See you all soon. Assalamu alaikum.
The Honorable Elijah Muhammad, who in my judgment is the master historian, taught us that of all our studies, history is the most attractive, and it is best qualified to reward the researcher. History is most attractive. Why should history be most attractive? Because history is the recorded time of the human family in its struggle to overcome obstacles. There is no life that is without struggle. The Holy Quran teaches us that man, meaning man and woman, is made to face difficulties. And after difficulty comes ease. But it is history that guides us through difficulty. For if you know how people who had difficulty yesterday got through, and if your difficulty is somewhat similar, then today we also can get through if we follow the guidance of history. This is why Carter G. Woodson and many of our black giants fought for black people to know our history. Because in not knowing our history, we don't have a guide. And without a guide, we are lost.